Martin?
Thank you, Judge. Will you please state your name?
My name is Ann Brooks.
And do you know did you know a Mary Brooks?
She's my mother.
Okay, I'm going to direct your attention to your left there.
Yes.
Mayor Brooks, sir?
Yes.
State's Exhibit number 285, is that your mom?
That is.
Okay. And how many siblings do you have?
I have two brothers and two sisters. One sister predeceased my mother.
And do they live in this area, or?
One brother lives here. One brother has recently moved back to North Texas. I live in the Houston area, and my sister lives out of state.
And so we met David earlier, and that's your son.
It is.
We learned that he lived close to her there at 777 Custer Road.
He did.
Did your family grow up, you and your siblings grew up here in the Dallas area?
We grew up in Richardson, just a couple of miles from where my mother was living at this time.
I want to direct your attention back to 2018.
Okay.
January 31st of 2018. Did you get a call from your son about your mom?
Yeah.
First, did you call your son about your mom?
Yes. My sister and I hadn't been able to reach my mother for a day, and we were, at first you think, oh, she's out running around doing something, but the longer it went on, the more nervous we got. So.
Is that uncommon for you not to have had contact with?
Oh, yes.
Either you or your sister or someone in the family have contact with her every day?
Right.
Okay. What was she like as far as her physical ability and her mental ability?
She was very active she did use a cane. She had arthritis, but she didn't always have to use the cane. We were kind of honored to use it more because it gave her more mobility.
Okay.
She handled all of her own affairs. She was very organized. She had been a officer in a number of different civic organizations. She was still active in those. She was very active in the church. She was in Bible study. She a friend of hers started a program to provide preemie gowns down at Parkland, and she was doing that. She just enjoyed getting out. She drove the car. She could even drive at night, which, was a point of interest.
How old was she at that time?
She was 88.
Okay. When I was a kid, 88 was 104 or 5 these days. But nowadays, 88, people are still pretty active at that age.
Yes, and I always thought she was in good health. She went to the doctor regularly. My father was a physician, so she didn't obsess about it, but she
kept up her health.
She kept up her health.
Okay. Now, she had, right before this, had a little illness, flu-like symptoms, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes.
And we're all aware of that.
We were. I had been in on, I think, the 15th, weekend of the 15th, and she got sick right after that. It was about 10 days. She did go to the doctor and I think was taking Tamiflu, but she had gotten better and she was starting to get out, because that's what we talked about, was that she was feeling better and she was ready to start living her life again.
Okay. And was she pretty adamant that while she's sick, she doesn't want to get anybody else sick, so stay away, let her just deal with herself?
Correct.
Okay. And so I guess on the 31st, did you get a call from David or from someone about your mom's situation?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, we had called to get my son to go down and look, and it was getting kind of late, and he didn't really want to do it, but he did. And then he called to tell us that she had passed. And so
where were you at the time?
I was in California. My husband was working out there, so he got on the phone to get me a red-eye flight back here while I was talking to him.
To David.
To David. And
And did you get on that flight?
I did, and I was here like as the sun came up here.
Okay. So the next day on February 1st.
Yes,
And are you the executor of your mom's estate?
I am.
And when you take this role when a parent dies, you start getting affairs in order. Is that fair to say?
Yes,
What was one of the things you were looking for that day?
I was looking for the will.
And where did you expect that will to be held or stay kept in the house?
I just couldn't find. She had a safe in the front room that she had put in when she moved, and the keys to the bank safe deposit box were in that safe, and the safe was not there. And I kept, but there were books there and different things, and I kept looking like for the safe.
Okay, so a little safe, kind of that you would have, maybe a firebox type of
A
safe.
firebox safe,
Okay.
about the size of that little top box there.
The top box. Okay, and she would keep some important items to her, and the key to the safe deposit box.
The keys to the safe deposit box were in there. She kept a little bit of cash in there, and she had a transfer on death for her car, and I'm not sure why in the world it was in there rather than in the safe box. And there was nothing else that she kept in the safe box.
Okay, and you're real familiar with her house, and when you came to stay, you stayed with her when you were in just a few days before this.
Yes.
So State's Exhibit number 257. You see this area? Is this that front sitting room that we're talking about?
This is the front sitting room, and do you see?
that? Well,
Yep.
is there? What are we looking at there in 257?
So to the right of the lamp is a bifold closet, and she redid that so that it was some shelves. She didn't use it as a closet particularly. It was that's where she kept the safe, the vacuum cleaner, and the air mattress that I blew up when I slept at her house.
Was there also the printer in that room?
There was a printer also in that same area.
In that same closet?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you see that there's like a rubber band or something like that?
Yes.
On the door. Tell me about that.
Well, it just didn't stay closed, so that was her solution. It was very high tech.
Okay. And so in order to keep those doors closed, you would have had to put that rubber band on there.
Right.
And then so when you went to go look at the safe, you would have had, this is from the body cam that night, so those rubber bands, the rubber band is on there. You would have to take that rubber band off to look inside that closet.
Correct.
And was the safe inside that closet?
It was not.
Did you ever find that safe?
No.
Is it something that you believe to be too heavy for your mom to have moved around?
Yes, and that's,
Okay.
I can't believe I looked for it as long because I couldn't pick it up, and my mother certainly couldn't have picked it up.
Previous to when you were in to visit, was there an issue about her Bible study and being able to print her Bible study?
Yes,
Did you help her to print that Bible study?
I did,
Okay, in that closet.
in that closet.
Would you have noticed, do you think, at that time if that safe had been moved or was missing?
I think I would have. I didn't notice it, but I certainly noticed when I came back that it was not there.
Let me ask you this. Do you think your mom would have noticed that safe wasn't there?
Oh, yes.
So the safe is missing. That has the keys to the safe deposit box. And then while you're looking for the safe, did y'all realize that other things were missing in the house?
Yes, the house was really neat, but we kept looking, and I'm looking for something the size of a safe box. So I'm not looking for something really tiny, but after a bit, we realized that there's no jewelry around. And then we started looking in the places where my mother kept her jewelry, and most of it was gone.
$254, is this your mom's master bedroom?
It is.
And where in here would you expect to find some jewelry?
Well, in this picture on the right-hand side, that was her side of the bed, and she kept a lot of jewelry, especially can I call it antique, things that she had inherited from her mother and other relatives were in this, and some of her jewelry. And then
that's like a little end, like an
it's
end
a bedside table.
Bedside table, okay. And then if we look around the corner of that room, it doesn't really show too clear there. There's another dresser over here in that corner.
Right. So that's if you were looking at the bed in the previous picture, that would have been behind your left side in that corner.
And would you expect to find some jewelry there?
Oh, yes. She had 3 jewelry boxes. They weren't locked. They were just little boxes, and she kept the good jewelry that she used regularly in those. And then in the top drawer of that dresser, she had mainly costume jewelry in a little plastic bin sort of thing.
I'll show. State's Exhibit number 285. The necklace that she's wearing in this picture, tell me about that necklace.
That was her favorite and our family's favorite piece of her jewelry, and she wore it all the time. It looked pretty on her. It was angel skin coral. She and Daddy bought it in Hawaii, and then over the years she bought some more pieces to go with it, but that was the one everybody admired and told her how beautiful it was all the time. She wore it every single day.
Okay. And would you have expected to have found that necklace?
Yes.
Did you find that necklace?
No.
Was there a funny story about that, about the necklace?
Yes. I don't know exactly how we started, but one night somebody said, well, yes, I'll do this for you, Mom, like do the laundry, take the dishes, if you leave me the coral in your will. And so then we all glommed onto that, and that coral was, supposed to change hands like 3 or 4 times a day. Whoever did something nice.
Whoever did the last nice thing for her was supposed to get the coral.
Was supposed to get the coral in the end.
Okay.
So.
She's wearing in this picture, she's wearing her wedding ring?
Yes, this was her second wedding ring, same husband, but about their 30th wedding anniversary, Daddy bought her this new set, and it was a big round cut diamond, and then it had 3 marquee cut diamonds on a second ring, like a ring guard off of it.
And did she wear that all the time?
She always wore that.
And did you ever find that ring?
No, it was 2 rings.
2 rings. Did you, let me show you. State's Exhibit number 237. Are you familiar with this ring?
This is my grandmother's ring, my mother's mother. This was her wedding ring.
That was your mother's wedding ring?
Correct.
And where would that have been kept at your mother's house?
In the bedside table.
The one close to her where she slept at night?
Right.
And how do you know that that's your mother's ring?
I just know it so well. The center diamond was part of her engagement ring, and near her 50th wedding anniversary, they decided to reset it. So she took it down, and that's the center, and then it has 4, can I say, spirals like a nebula that come out from it. So they were coming out counterclockwise on it. There's 7 on each side in the middle, and then I think 9 on the outer band. I remember the 7 because there were 7 of us in our family. The little diamonds, they look like they're marquee cut, like that's a cat's eye kind of look, but they're not. They're little round diamonds, and they have a dot of white gold on each end. It was very sparkly. It was really big. It was really splashy. My grandmother wore it all the time. She'd tell us about it, so we all knew about it. When she got sick one year, I was out of college. I was working, but was up there and took her to the hospital. And they won't let you leave anything valuable when you're sick. So she gave me this ring and a topaz ring and her diamond earrings, and I just wore them for the week because I didn't want to leave them, in a box somewhere. And then when she got better, I gave them back to her, but I wore it. And the other thing is, this ring is it was fused or soldered together at the bottom. So where my mother's ring would come apart into 2 rings, this was 3 rings that were soldered into one, and it was a big chunk of ring.
Okay. So you're very familiar.
Yes.
When you got to your the safe deposit box,
Right.
did you ever find the keys for the safe deposit?
No, they had to drill out the safe deposit box.
Okay. Did they do that maybe 3 or 4 weeks after all?
They did not hurry. Yeah, it was about 3 weeks later.
When you got inside the safe deposit box, did you find some documents inside the safe deposit box?
They were just exactly what I'd expected. My mother had gone through them with me. She had all of her daughters on the safe deposit box. And when we signed originally, she went through it, but her will was there, trusts were there, old trusts and wills from my grandparents were in there. There was some deeds. Her car title was in there. And all of the appraisals that she'd ever had for this jewelry and that my grandmother had ever had were in there, and they were always in there.
She's kind of a meticulous person as far
She was
as
very meticulous.
commercial approach.
Okay.
Did you find State's Exhibits 281, 282, 283, and 284 in that safe deposit box?
I did.
And are those appraisals for jewelry that your mom or your grandmother at one time had owned?
That's correct. And yes,
And were they kept in the place that you would have expected to have found them for your mom's important papers?
yes,
And are all these pieces of jewelry that are listed in these appraisals, is all this jewelry missing?
it's all missing.
We'll offer State's Exhibits 281, 282, 283, and 284 in evidence.
Now, regarding objections to State's Exhibit 283, we do object to 281, to 282, and 284. There's been no connection made between this jewelry and Mr. Chemirmir. We believe that, therefore, it's not relevant, as well as 403 objection.
Let me see, so it's 281, 282.
And 403.
So you object to,
All except for 282, I believe that.
so no objection to 283?
Yes, that's correct.
So you're objecting to 281, 282, and 284?
That's correct.
Mr. Fitzmartin, do you have a response?
Well, Judge, we will have evidence that will come in that there was 2 sales made on the 30th and 31st regarding jewelry. And so I believe that some of these might be jewelry.
So are 281, 282, and 284, you admit those for record purposes at this point? Would you say that?
They're already in for record purposes.
Okay.
So I'm at this time offering them for all purposes.
And what is your link to, in response to the objection?
That there will be evidence coming in that shows that sales were made by Mr. Chemirmir of other jewelry items on the 30th and 31st.
So at this time, we will allow them to still be record until they can be proved at another time. So at this point, 283 will come in for all purposes. Yes, 283 will come in for all purposes. 281, 282, and 284 are still record until such time that
So when we look at State's Exhibit number 283, is this the appraisal for the same ring that from 1989 that we see in State's Exhibit 237?
Yes, it is.
And so at one point in time, your mom had your grandmother's ring for Mrs. Brooks appraised
Yes,
at a company by the name of William Noel.
correct.
And at that time, in 1989, it was appraised for $9,800.
That's correct.
So there's your picture of your mom and the picture of that same ring.
Yes.
If you would have expected to have been at 77, your mom at 777 Custer and that ring as well.
Yes, sir.
I'll pass on this.
Any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Williams, Lady Lewis.
No case, Your Honor.
All right, you may step down, thank you so much.